As the family enters the sanctuary, I'll ask that you check your phones just to make sure they are in vibrate or mute mode. It's very easy to forget that. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Temple Avat Shalom. My name is Rabbi Matt Berger. Pleased to have all of you here joining us as we remember Dudley Davis. We'll begin with the voice of the psalmist who turns to God saying, "I lift my eyes to the mountains. What is the source of my help? My help comes from Adonai, maker of heaven and earth. Esa einai el heharim, me'ayin yavo ezri. Esa einai el heharim, me'ayin yavo ezri. Ezri me'im Adonai. O say, Shamayim va'aretz, Ezri me'im Adonai. O say, Shamayim va'aretz. In this time of grief and very personal memory, we listen to the voice of our sacred scriptures that brings us the ever-new message of God's presence and God's nearness. It tells us of our relationship with the Creator, in light as in darkness, in joy as in sorrow, in life as in death. The words of Psalm 15 speak to the type of individual we would call a mensch, a good and decent human being. Mi yigor behoalecha mi yishkon bechar kodshecha. God, who may abide in your house, who may dwell in your holy mountain. Those who are upright to do justly, who speak the truth within their hearts, who do not slander others or wrong them or bring shame upon them, who give their word and come what may, do not retract, who do not exploit others, who never take bribes. Those who live in this way shall never be shaken. I'll now chant the words of Psalm 23 in Hebrew. Following that, I'll invite anyone who's familiar with the English translation to join me as we read this comforting psalm. Adonai roi lo echsar, bihino teshe yarbitzeni, Almei menuchot, yenaleini. Nafshi yeshovev, yeshovev. Yancheni v'magle tzedek. Yancheni v'magle tzedek. Leman shemo. Gam ki ele v'geis al mavet lo irara ki ata imadi. Shiftecha umishantecha hema yenachamuni. Taroch lefanai shulchan neged sorarai. Dishanta v'shemen roshi kosi revaya. Aktov v'chesed yirdefuni kol yemei chayai v'shavti beveit Adonai leorech yamim. Adonai roi lo hechsar, Adonai roi lo hechsar. Please join me in translation. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He makes me to lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside the still waters. He restores my soul. He guides me in straight paths for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You have anointed my head with oil, my cup runs over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever. In one of the books considered part of Jewish wisdom literature, Kohelet in Hebrew, or Ecclesiastes as the translation, we read about the various times and seasons of our lives. L'chol zaman v'et l'chol chefetz tachat hashamayim. Meaning for everything there is a season and a time for every experience under heaven. A time to be born and a time to die. A time to plant and a time to uproot what's planted. A time to tear and a time to build. A time to weep and a time to laugh. A time to grieve and a time to dance. A time to throw and a time to gather. A time to embrace and a time to refrain from embracing. A time to seek and a time to lose. A time to keep and a time to discard. A time to tear and a time to sow, a time to keep silence and a time to speak. In the Spirit, we pause today for a moment in the precious journey of life to celebrate, remember, and mourn the passing of Dudley Davis, a good man who was content with his life, adored his wife, daughters, and grandchildren, and loved his entire extended family. Born in Illinois, Dudley was one of 4 children. Because their father served in the Air Force, the family moved a number of times during his childhood. His early years were spent north of London, where he learned to appreciate the diverse experiences that come with living abroad. After returning to the States, the family eventually settled in Tampa, where Dudley attended high school. Upon graduation, he earned a bachelor's degree in computer science at Southern Illinois University. Following in his father's footsteps, Dudley honorably served in the Army Reserves. Dudley was blessed to find the love of his life, Jackie. Their marriage of nearly 55 years was filled with kindness, warmth, and love. To be sure, Dudley wasn't effusive by nature, and he wasn't always a hugger. But it was clear that his love language was helping others. He'd often say to family and friends, "What do you need?" And he took great pleasure from other people's happiness. Over time, he amassed an incredible set of skills, which he used regularly to help others. He enthusiastically rolled up his sleeves and sought out opportunities to fix and improve just about anything, from electrical work to tiling to painting. Dudley was blessed with gifted hands. He especially enjoyed helping his kids, Stephanie and Michelle, whom he adored. As a dad, Dudley was super active in their many extracurricular activities and avidly supported their Jewish education here at Ahavat Shalom. When they each attended at separate times the University of Florida, he would schlep all of their furnishings, even the old school large boxy television sets, from one apartment to the next. And when they graduated college, he helped both of them move to their new locations for additional schooling or work. Dudley had a way of anticipating needs and following through. In short order, he could spruce up and decorate any home with ease. He was an amazing dad who always prioritized his children's well-being. Dudley's sense of adventure knew no bounds. He loved cars and raced them on tracks for 15 years. Not only did he excel behind the wheel, but he also helped engineer them. Dudley also loved exploring the natural world as a photographer and sharing stories from all of his varied experiences, graciously and without fanfare. He also loved his daughter's spouses, Chris and Tim, each who valued Dudley's dedication to family, his supportive nature, his strong work ethic, and his no-drama demeanor. Dudley found great meaning in his volunteer work with the Coast Guard Auxiliary. See him in the dress uniform. For over 20 years, he would spend 6 to 8 hours a day streamlining their operations, training new volunteers, and of course, spending time out on the boats, assisting in any way he could. Simply put, the work spoke to him. He was a great teacher and won numerous Volunteer of the Year awards. Dudley lived life with no regrets. He was a great role model as a husband, brother, father, and grandfather. And he was a mensch, honest, kind, and warm. He treasured his family as well as long-standing relationships with friends. About 2,000 years ago, the sages of the Mishnah, a Jewish text, famously asked, Eza Ashir, who is rich? And their answer, those who are happy with their lot. Dudley personified this ethos through his beliefs, his actions, and his aspirations. This is why so many people cared about him and for him throughout his life. Though it was always difficult to lose a loved one and a treasured friend, let us take pause today to give thanks to God for the privilege of knowing Dudley and walking the road of life with him. He leaves behind an enduring legacy of family, good values, and love. God willing, his zikaron, his memory, will always serve to be a bracha, a lasting blessing. As we say together, Amen. Pleasure to call forward Stephanie and Michelle, who will be offering very special tribute.
Thank you so much for being here to celebrate our dad. Well, today is an undeniably sad day. We are so grateful for the time we had with him and the wonderful life he provided us. His life was one marked by service, first as an Eagle Scout, then, as Rabbi mentioned, as a U.S. Army reservist, later as a U.S. Coast Guard auxiliary member, his adventurous spirit, and then most importantly, his dedication to family. Our dad was known for many things. He was an outdoorsman, a car lover, a former race car driver, a boat captain, and was someone who could build and fix anything. But his most important title was Dad. He did everything for us at 100%. When we were little, we loved dolls, as many of you probably remember. So our dad didn't just buy us the latest dollhouse, he custom built each of us a dollhouse complete with wallpaper, hardwood flooring, and lighting, and made sure our Barbies had all the best cars and boats, including a Ferrari, a Jeep, a '57 Chevy, a motorhome, and a speedboat. He was there for every activity and sports event. We were both competitive swimmers, and my dad not only drove us to all of those 5 a.m. swim practices and sat at hours-long weekend swim meets, but he also led our swim team booster club, and he even became a swimming official. Our dad loved cars and was an SEC Porsche race car driver during the 1970s and early 80s. He later became a BMW enthusiast, so as you can imagine, when it came time for us to learn to drive, he taught us on a manual transmission BMW and imparted every single skill from his racing days. And I'm proud to say, thanks to our dad, we can pretty much drive any stick shift vehicle and parallel park a car anywhere in the world. At least I definitely can. Our dad loved being on the water, so we spent most weekends on the boat. He taught us all the usual life skills you need as a Floridian: how to cast a line, how to carve a fish, and how to drive the boat. But there was one lesson that we never expected to learn. There was one time we were out fishing with our cousins, and someone caught a small hammerhead shark that ended up flying into the boat. The shark was literally loose in the boat, thrashing around with all of us kids leaping out of the way. In one instant, my dad somehow managed to subdue the shark with a club and then safely release the shark alive back into the water. So if there is ever a shark in your boat, we now know what to do. Okay.
As many of you know, our dad is not the most demonstrative man, but he showed his love through acts of service. Maybe not. I'll try. He could fix anything and always tried to make our lives easier. As you heard, he moved us to everything. Maybe you do it.
Okay.
There you go. Go ahead.
He moved us into every single dorm room and apartment that we lived in. When my sister moved to Boston for her medical residency, Michelle flew, and my dad drove Michelle's car filled with all of her stuff from Florida to Boston. And when I moved into my first apartment into New York City, I naturally wanted all of the trendiest paint colors in the apartment, so my dad flew to New York and repainted my entire apartment while I was on a work shoot in London. Whether he was taking care of us, our cars, fixing things in our apartment, he just wanted to do whatever he could to make our lives easier. And most recently, when my dad was no longer able to drive, it was a big deal. My dad obviously loved cars. Driving was a huge passion for him. Instead of, taking it with such a sad kind of moment, he ended up gifting my husband Chris and I his car because he insisted that we needed it more. It was not only a generous gift, but in true Dudley fashion, before he gave us the car, he literally put in a new windshield, new tires, had it detailed, and made sure the car was absolutely perfect for us. Dad was not only a great father to us, but a wonderful father-in-law to our husbands, Tim and Chris. He was a loyal brother to Jack, to Danny, and to Bob. He was a wonderful brother-in-law and maintained incredibly close relationships to all of our aunts and uncles. He cherished being an uncle, and for our Florida cousins in particular, Jason, Michael, Alan, Jackson, Laura, and Sarah, he was like a second parent. We spent weekends together, him driving the boat, everyone learning their skills on a ski bob, attending sporting events, for him ideally the Tampa Bay Bucks and Florida Gators, and teaching everyone about local wildlife. And he especially loved spending time with his great niece and nephew, Rose and Clark. As his daughters, we were lucky to have his unwavering support, but it was so special to see him as a papa to our kids. He just adored Rory, Clark, and Liam.
Calvin.
Oh my God, guys, I wrote this late at night, I'm gonna be honest. Thank you, Rory, Calvin, and Liam, and loved hearing every milestone and anecdote about their lives, as only a grandpa can. We are lucky and grateful for his love and support, in particular for our mom during their 55 years of marriage. We were lucky to call him our father, grateful for all he did for the community, and he will be missed by all who knew him, especially us. Sorry.
After such a loving and beautiful tribute, I'd like to share a very special poem called A Litany of Remembrance, and I'll invite each of you to join with me in the repeated refrain, "We will remember him. In the rising of the sun and in its going down, we will remember him. In the blowing of the wind and in the chill of winter, we will remember him. In the opening of buds and in the rebirth of spring, we will remember him. In the rustling of leaves and the beauty of autumn, we will remember him. In the beginning of the year and when it ends, we will remember him. When we are weary and in need of strength, we will remember him. When we are lost and sick at heart, we will remember him. When we have joys we yearn to share, we will remember him. So long as we live, Dudley too shall live, for he is now a part of us as we remember him." Now I'd like to offer a very special prayer called El Mali Rachamim. It's a prayer of compassion for Dudley's spirit and soul, his nefesh. I'll ask all of us to rise, if you're able, for this traditional prayer of comfort. El Male Rachamim, Shochen Bamromim, Hamse Menucha Nechona, Tachat Kanfecha Shihina, L'nishmat Bo Shelcha Le'olamo, Bal HaRachamim, V'tzror B'tzror Chaim et Nishmato, Adonai Hu Nachalato, Ve'anuach B'Shalom Al Mishkavo, Then Omar, Amen. Compassionate God, eternal Spirit of the universe, grant perfect rest in your sheltering presence to Dudley Davis, who has entered eternity. God of mercy, let him find refuge in your eternal presence beneath the shadow of your wings. Let his soul be bound up in the bond of life eternal. God is his inheritance. May he rest in peace as we say together, Amen. And join me now in words of praise called Kaddish Yatom, the Mourner's Kaddish. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei rabbah, v'yalma divra chiruteh v'yamlich malchuteh, v'chayichon v'yomechon v'chayedecho beit Yisrael, ba'ala u'vizman kariv v'imru, Amen. Yehei shmei rabbah mevarach le'alam u'lameh al-maya, Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh v'yitadar v'yitalev v'yitalal shemei dekudesha b'rihu le'elam min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata da'amiran b'yalma v'imru, Amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru, Amen. Oseh shalom b'mramav hu ya'aseh shalom Aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru, Amen. May the one who causes peace in the heavens cause peace to descend on us, Israel, and throughout the world as we say, Amen. I'll sing these words of peace, Oseh Shalom. Oseh Shalom b'mromav, hu yaseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael. V'imru, v'imru, Amen. Yaseh shalom, yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh shalom, yaseh shalom, Shalom Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. May God grant peace to all those who mourn and comfort all the bereaved among us. This concludes our service. There's going to be a luncheon immediately behind you in the social hall, a meal of condolence.